call to order this session of the Atwater City Council for September 12, 2016. If you will all please rise for a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by invocation by Chaplain Meade. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you for the ability of coming into these halls, Father, in order to do the business of the city of Atwater. We do thank you for those that sit upon those benches, Father. We pray that you'll just watch over them and help them make decisions that will be wise for this great city. We thank you for the citizens that have gathered here tonight and those that are watching on TV. We thank you especially for the young men and women that have shown up today, Father, the children of this community, Father, that they can witness the acts of this government, Father. We do thank you for watching over the healths of all those that are here. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Bergman,
Here.
Raymond,
Here.
Rivero,
Here.
Vineyard,
Present.
Price.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our regular meeting tonight, I want to recognize this evening Mr. Austin Warden and his class from Bellevue School, who are here to observe their local government in action. So we will hopefully not make it too boring for them or too over their heads or whatever, but I wanted to welcome them here today, and I hope that you get a little something out of this, okay? Thank you so much, Mr. Warden, for bringing him down. Okay.
Okay, Mayor or City Attorney report out from closed session.
Mr. Terpstra, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the public. The council did meet in closed session on 4 items, one of which was continued to the next meeting of August, or rather September 26th. As to the other 3 items, no reportable action was taken, but staff was given direction.
Approval of agenda as posted or as amended. I have received a request to remove item 20 from the agenda in its entirety.
I have a request for the agenda to be modified to drop item 20. Are there any members of the council that wish to have any further discussion on this item? If not, entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Call for the question. Oh, before the, Mr. Rivero?
But was there a timeline that you're placing this back on?
No timeline was given. It will be placed back on the agenda when it's completed, I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Terpstra, I understand this is for language, is that correct? For this particular item?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Would it be your estimation that by the next council meeting this should be complete?
I think so. I think, although we do have some, it might be better to wait to the first meeting in October.
Okay. Very good. Okay, call for the question.
Bergman,
Yes.
Vineyard,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Rivero,
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
Motion carries. Presentations. Monthly verbal report by Merced County District 3 Supervisor McDaniel.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. How are you doing? At our last Board of Supervisors meeting, we brought together a project and advice staff for a new plan for Castle. This is the first plan ever since the Air Force Base has left. And what we're looking at, estimating, it should be, at full build out, it'll be 1 in 9 jobs will be present out of Castle Air Force Base. And that's throughout the whole Merced County. Generate maximum tax revenues, increase the value assets, and produce maximum public receipts, minimize risk to the county. It's a public-private partnership. So we're going to get it set and ready and let the private industry come in and do it for us. Mental health and first 5 relocation of services in an effort to improve services for clients. The Merced County Department of Mental Health relocated its alcohol and drug adult outpatient program to the First Five location, and First Five is relocated at 260 East 15th Street in Merced. Upcoming Board of Supervisors meeting, tomorrow we have one, nothing big on the agenda tomorrow, but the next meeting will be September 20th at 10 a.m. We'll be presenting our final budget at 11 a.m. I just represented you on Valley Voice. I'm on the Valley Voice Policy Council in Washington, D.C. last week. We had, it was a very, a lot of meetings. So Department of Transportation and Transportation was the biggest menu. So we're having a hard time where we consider ourselves a donor county. And what I mean by donor county, a lot of our tax revenues go out of the county and we don't get a lot back. So we're back in DC trying to strategize with the Department of Transportation on how we can utilize what we have here and how we can leverage funds to get more funds here. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Supervisor McDaniel? And Mr. Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I had a question or somewhat of a concern. I read that in the newspaper about, and I appreciate the 1 in 9 jobs. But when the base was closing, there was a kind of a concern, a large concern, where when the prison was coming in, they were going to build too close to the runway, which was going to shut the runway down for good, which wouldn't have been beneficial to our area at all. On this proposal, I saw that they're going to be eliminating portions of the runway. And I don't know how far into this that you are, but I don't see that as being very beneficial at all. I mean, this is one of the runways that, in fact, at one time, the space shuttle, it was an alternate side in case there was an emergency or something. This is one of the areas. It's the 3rd or 4th largest on the West Coast.
Right.
And so when I saw that, an alarm went off in my head. So, I mean, there's a lot of space out there. There's a whole lot of space, and I don't see a real benefit if you're going to close down portions of runway or eventually eliminate that runway. And I do know there's factions within the county that would like to see our runway go away. So I don't want to see anything that's going to hamper any future for the potentials that exist out there. And I mean, we have businesses out there. In fact, the mayor, he has a business out there too that fuels some of these planes. So my concern is that I don't want to see us diminish one of the largest runways on the West Coast without a really good reason.
Right.
So,
Well, absolutely, and we take that in consideration. And to be honest with you, I haven't, in my travels and all my meetings and discussions, nobody has ever wanted to eliminate that runway in any of my stuff. So the comment in the paper was they were going to shorten the runway. It's a shortening of the threshold, but by standards, we can still land a 747 with that length during the summer.
okay. Well, and my point is too, is there's a whole lot of room out there along the other side, both sides of the runway, to cut off. Even that, to me, is starting to take away from it. So I hope that they're really taking a good look at this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, as Supervisor McDaniel will attest, he and I have had some rather spirited discussions along these lines, and it's not just runway, but ramp space. Runways are all well and good, but you got to have the operational areas as well, but that's for another discussion for another day. So, anyone else have any other comments or questions for Supervisor McDaniel? If not, thank you, Darren.
Absolutely. If I could be excused, I'm actually going to have to leave the meeting. My son has a water polo game, and we're playing Pittman High School or Atwater High School, so thank you.
Good luck.
Get wet.
Comments from the public. At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. Please state your name and address for the record. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on a future agenda. To comment on an item that is on the agenda, please wait until the item is read for consideration. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes.
Are there any members of the audience this evening that wish to address the City Council? Mr. Barkman.
Mr. Mayor, Bill Barkman, 2100 Fruitland, and I would like to just take care of two things. And one of them is an invitation, and the other is an expression of appreciation for the police department. Mr. Price, the faculty and staff of Fruitland Christian Preschool and the leadership of First Church of God extend an invitation to you and the members of City Council to our upcoming events on the weekend of October 1st and 2nd. This invitation extends to Mr. Gary Bryce of the Community Development and Resources Commission and its members, the heads of the city's administration and police department, and Chief Pimentel, and members of the Atwater Fire Department. Beginning Saturday, October 1st at 3 p.m., the church celebrates 100 years of ministry in the greater Atwater community. We will also dedicate the Anna Mello Learning Center at Fruitland Christian Preschool. We sincerely hope you all join us as we remember the past, celebrate the present, and look to the future. A reception will follow. Our special guest for the weekend is Mr. Leon Patillo, former lead singer with the rock group Santana from 73 to 79. Leon will honor the event in music during the centennial and dedication. As a motivational speaker, he will also speak at the church's Sunday morning service at 10:15. You are also invited to a benefit concert with Leon Patillo on behalf of Fruitland Christian Preschool on Sunday night, October 7th at 7 p.m. There will be ample parking at the church and across the street at Atwater High School. Mr. Mayor, we genuinely hope you, the City Council, Administration Commission on Public Safety will join us on the 1st at 3 p.m. and any of the other two events planned. And if I may give these to Mr. Vineyard, he can distribute one for each of you at the dais.
Pro Tem Bergman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Barkman, I may have missed it, but what time was the concert?
The concert is Sunday night at 7 p.m.
7.
The dedication and the centennial celebration is Saturday at 3, as the invitation will share.
Thank you.
Again, we hope you all will come. The other thing we want to do is, as a church and as a preschool in the community, and just haven't been able to get around to be here to do it, so I apologize for the tardiness, is an expression of appreciation for the uniformed persons serving the city, whether they're behind the desk, at the radio, on patrol, or wherever. And so I have 40 Starbucks cards, $5 each, by each of the officers and the personnel on staff with APD, a cup of coffee. I can't get out there and do it with all of them, but I can do it this way.
Don't give them all to Chief Joseph back there. He will. He has a rotating
My feeling
account.
is that if you trust Acting Chief Joseph, I
Yeah.
can trust him as well. Besides, I can pray some mean prayers.
I understand. Bill, also, was that the second at 1900 or 7 o'clock?
The second.
Okay,
yes.
very good. And is this also good so I can bring my wife? Otherwise, I'm
You
dead
can
meat.
bring your wife and your checkbook.
Oh, I'll bring both. I
Okay.
promise. Thank you
Jeff.
very much. Okay. I'm going to just, out of line here a little bit. Mr. Warden, would you like to introduce your class at this time and let us know what your program is?
So I'll make this official. My name's Austin Worden. I live at 305 Karen Way here in Atwater. I am the assistant principal, one of two assistant principals at Bellevue Elementary, just down the street. This year I have with me an amazing group of young men and women. I have our ASB leadership class from Bellevue Elementary. These students represent our 7th and 8th graders on campus. Not only are they leaders of our school, but we hope that this year, with the collaboration with the City of Atwater, they become leaders of our community as well. So I want to thank you, Mayor, for entertaining us tonight at your meeting, and I look forward for us doing a lot more with the City of Atwater this year. So, again, I'm very proud of our students, and with me I have our principal of Bellevue, Mrs. Linda Lamerson, and our activities director, Ms. Kim Moore. All right?
Very good.
So again, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
I don't think I've heard our meetings described quite like entertaining, but we'll take it, whatever we have. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the City Council at this time? Yes, ma'am. Come to the podium if you will. Well, where you been? We've been looking for you. Ma'am, if you'll come to the podium over here and state your name for the record, please.
Short people. Okay, my name is Olivia Webster, and I don't know if this is the format, but I wanted to request help with the removal of a tree that is pretty much endangering the main pipelines in my home. I've already once had it burst to where it flooded. I had to replace all the carpeting in order to get it fixed, and it continues to grow, and I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what else to do to get that tree removed. I know I didn't put it in, and I've been there over 12 years. It's a pine tree, huge.
Ma'am, if you could give us your address, and we'll have our Public Works Director get in touch with you.
Thank you.
What's your address?
3114 Larch Drive, here in Atwater.
Okay. Okay, very good. We will have the Public Works people look into this, okay?
Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Anyone else wishing to address the council? Okay. Seeing none, next agenda.
Consent calendar. Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Are there any items on the consent calendar that a council member would like to remove for separate consideration? Any members of the audience have a item on the consent calendar they would like to have addressed? Hearing and seeing none, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Call for the question.
Vineyard,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Rivero,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
Motion carries. Public hearings, amending miscellaneous fee schedule.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It is staff's recommendation for opening the public hearing and take any testimony given, and adopting resolution number 2918-16, amending the miscellaneous fee schedule. Fee schedule has been changed. There is 1% CPI increase for this current fiscal year 2017. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to ask.
Any council members have any questions for Ms. Dole? I hear none. This is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing. Anyone that has any comments to this particular item may step forward at this time. State your name for the record. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Anyone on the council have any comments to this item? Mr. Vineyard.
I'll let Mr. Bergman go first. I was going to make a motion unless
Go
you're...
right ahead. That was my choice.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to adopt Resolution 2918-16, amending the miscellaneous fee schedule.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Call for the question.
Berkman,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Vineyard,
Yes.
Rivero,
No.
Price.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Verbal reports and presentations from staff. Verbal update regarding Community Development Department activities and projects.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, member of the public. Try to be brief tonight. We prepared an outline for you to follow along. I know the council has this in the packet. It's also posted on the city's website, and I believe it's pretty easy to follow for the public in attendance tonight and those attending. Just kind of wanted to highlight some of the activities that your department is working on this year and going into the next year. Actually, it's going to essentially go through this current fiscal year into the next fiscal year, most likely. Let me get this technology working for us here. As you know, we've got several different divisions within the department, building, planning, engineering, economic development, special projects, which includes our grant administration and a few other activities. Also absorbed the former redevelopment agency as part of what's called successor agency. Just wanted to kind of highlight to you over the past few years what's been happening in terms of new single-family building permits. Obviously, we had several years where there was no activity. Last few years, nice change of pace for us, very active, and through this current year, through the end of August, at 33 new single-family permits. Total number of building permits, that's for all things that we do. That's re-roofs, that's HVAC, you name it, hot water heaters, including single-family permits, commercial permits, activities remaining very, very strong. Very busy year last year, 2015, and pretty much on similar pace for 2016. There are some projects that are pending. These are projects that essentially, if someone were to come in tomorrow and pay the fees, they'd more or less be ready to be issued. These are ones that council's approved some time ago, some new gas stations, a new hotel, and also a remodel for Taco Bell, basically right across the road. Some other things Building Division's working on. We're going to be working on new code adoptions to coincide with the new calendar year. You had an invitation earlier tonight from Fruitland Church and their facilities. Also provided a list of some other projects we've been working on ongoing, primarily larger non-commercial type projects that we've been involved with over the past few years. Just kind of wanted to highlight some of the congestion mitigation air quality grants that we've been able to receive. These are grants that help move people throughout the community. We have some pedestrian improvement projects for Buhack Road, primarily to install a sidewalk to connect from Avenue 1 to the high school, Juniper Avenue improvements. Also starting to work on the traffic synchronization project. That would include the new signal at Olive and Winton Way and have it synchronized with all the signals that are around Applegate and Highway 99. Also earlier tonight on the consent calendar, you just approved the contract to allow us to move forward with the HSIP, that's a Highway Safety Improvement Program. That's to modify the signal at Juniper and Schaefer for split phasing for safety purposes. So those are some of the areas we're working on. Also in the middle of procuring several pieces of equipment that are 100% grant funded. These are all for Public Works Department. So you see a list there that we've been able to secure with grant funds. I know this is small, but this is a list of some of the other projects and activities that we've been involved in, primarily in the areas of public safety, parks and recreation. So you can see the list there for on and on. A lot of activity in this division, very proud of our staff's hard work. Also had some pending awards. These are ones that we're not aware of currently. We put this together, but you can see we have probably the biggest one would be the COPS hiring for retention, and also SAFER grant, and we'll be sure to keep the community and the council apprised. Also, we're going to most likely get some confirmation about the housing element being certified by the state, at which time we'll be eligible again for the block grant programs and home programs. There's going to be some ramping up of efforts on our part to kind of get immersed and trained. It's been many years since we worked on those, but there are some great programs under those that could be a benefit to many different people in our community, so we're going to try to take full advantage of those going into the future. Again, in our engineering division, trying to finalize the improvement projects at Applegate Road, Winton Way, the signal modification project, obviously working on Broadway, and then engineering is going into the design for all the various grants that we have awarded, so we just kind of listed those there for you to see. And also participating on the bid call process with Public Works for the CMAQ funded equipment. As you can see, engineering, grants, Public Works, we all have to work together on these projects. No one division can do it all on their own. It's all about teamwork and cooperation. In planning for the next year, as you know, we've adopted the housing element. There's going to be a considerable amount of changes to the codes needed to implement the programs. There's some inconsistencies we have in our current code with state laws that have to be addressed. And so this is going to be a pretty considerable project on our behalf going forward. Also, there's going to need to be some code amendments in zoning related to the new building code for consistency. And we are going to be providing some assistance on utility master plans. It's kind of one of the first steps really in the general plan update. I know that Mr. Vincent here tonight has been working on getting these queued up, and they're going to be coming to you for your consideration pretty soon to award a contract to allow us to proceed on updating those. Also potentially, with your direction, probably working on an RFP or RFQ for securing services for general plan update. Some things that we're working on right now, the municipal service review for LAFCO. That kind of tells the county and LAFCO where we are as a community, what we can accommodate. Pretty important, significant piece of information that's out there. And just wanted to kind of go through those quickly for you. Ferrari Ranch, we continue to have a lot of questions about, where is it, when is it, everything else. We're still working on kind of the entitlement piece of this project. The administrative draft EIR is pretty much done. We're probably going to be having it out for final reviews in October. Final EIR probably released before the holidays. Very likely we could have the consideration package to the commission and the city council sometime in January or February. That would include the public hearings needed for the approvals. And then there's usually a lag between when we can take action and when LAFCO would review it. So we're kind of looking forward that perhaps by early summer, the project could be before LAFCO for their consideration. Just some kind of related issues to the Ferrari Ranch project. Still working with the city manager on the tax sharing agreement with Merced County. We are also working with the applicant on the concept of creating these enhanced infrastructure finance districts. Those are needed for financing public improvements to serve the project. And then development agreement, which kind of spells out some of the business aspects of who's covering what expenses, when do things get reimbursed. Pretty complicated document. And also the traffic improvement program. This is kind of where we've been focusing a lot of our attention. This takes into consideration all the county's concerns, the new project impacts, to kind of articulate them into a way that it can be mitigated and allow us to go forward. Under the successor agency, we're going to be coming up pretty close for the ROPS. That's the Recognized Obligation Payment Schedule. That basically lets you pay the bills for the former agency. Most likely going to be coming forward fairly soon with a loan modification for Lupitas. That's a property transaction that we financed. We still have the Bale Lane properties to dispose of. We have a multifamily property on Cedar Avenue. We have some commercial properties on Atwater Boulevard. And then there's some tie-ins also to the housing element related to the successor agency that we have to work on as far as state reporting in the next year. Just kind of list some of the other things that we do in our department. As you know, we provide support to the city council. We provide support to the CDRC, the commission. We have a working group with public safety and public works that we meet periodically and talk about traffic and other issues. We work with MCAG, both at the technical review board, technical planning committee level, provide ongoing public assistance, provide for a lot of meetings and calls with project applicants. Those are some of the things we do on a daily basis. That's about as quick as I can get through that. I wanted to kind of get you up to date. We don't do this very often. Try to do it about once a year and just give you a sense of what we're doing and where we're going. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions for Mr. McBride from the council? Mr. Vineyard?
And Mr. McBride, question on the Broadway project, can you give us a little status on that, particularly when the dirt areas between next to the sidewalk are going to be filled, or how they're going to be filled? Because
Right.
recently I've had 2 calls about tripping incidences or falling incidences.
Yeah, so it's going to be one of the last pieces that's done. Obviously, we're going block by block, starting from First Street, ending at Winton Way. And the reason why that has to be towards the end is we have to make sure that there's no broken irrigation lines. We also are going to be doing street light replacements. So if there's any electrical lines that have to be upgraded or changed, we don't want to put the facilities in and have them removed. So that's why that planter section is maybe about as wide as this table here. It's between the curb and the sidewalk. So it'll be one of the last pieces that's done. And we're actually going to be working on a proposal for 3 or 4 different options to come back to the council for your input. We didn't have a real good plan when we started with this about what we're going to put back in there to fill in for the area. We really originally thought that we could deal with landscaping and bark, but it's a very long strip, and obviously people park there and they walk across it, and the maintenance purposes it's not going to work. So we're looking at 3 or 4 different options. One is decomposed granite, one is pavers, one is concrete, and one is stained concrete. So basically 4 options. They go from reasonable to very expensive. And that's the reason why we want to get your input and the community on which one you feel is going to work best for the area and which one you feel is appropriate, considering that we're going to have to spend additional gas tax funds on it.
Now, is there supposed to be any type of signage or some way to basically inform the public that there could be a tripping or falling hazard while those areas are unleveled? Or
They have provided general notice that they're working in the area, and they do try to provide some caution signage and tape when they're doing it. I know, and often it's been removed, and so that's the best they've been able to do at this point.
Thank you.
And Scott, one of the things along that same complaint that I've heard about, and one of the things that you and I discussed is there is an unevenness between the curb and where that sidewalk is, which presents a certain challenge there. Is that not true?
That is true.
Okay.
Yeah, the sidewalk is not uniform, it's not level, we're not removing or replacing or repairing the sidewalk, and so that's going to be part of the problem with doing it, but it'll be repaired to the best and safest extent that we can, given what we have to work around.
Right. Okay.
Just to kind of keep in mind, this was basically about a $2 million project that we did plans for, and then we had maybe $1.25 million we thought when we got started to spend on the project, so we knew we were going to have to scale it back. And now we're trying to get this done for less than $800,000, so we've even scaled it back even farther. So we've tackled what we felt were the most important safety issues, the curb returns, a drainage issue, some non-compliant slope issues, and again, the tripping issues, the last one. Keep in mind, this is not the only area of town that has what we call separated curb and sidewalk. There's many areas of town where you have that. Some have grass, some have nothing, and so it's not much different than other areas, except that this gets a lot of high turnover parking in it, so we want to make sure that it's going to hold up and last, work for the businesses and for the people.
And the lighting on this project?
It'll include replacing the existing lights only, it won't be adding any additional lights. They're going to keep costs down there by reusing all the existing electrical systems to the best ability that they can. If it's not working, they have to fix it, but that's the only way we can go about this to keep the cost down.
With respect to the city property that we have up for sale, how is that being marketed or promoted?
We have 2 properties on Bell Drive listed with a commercial agent. And before we take any steps on the remaining successor agency properties on Atwater Boulevard, we have to come through you for some different direction, as well as the successor agency oversight board. So on those, it's to be determined. We haven't taken any steps on those. That's what we're going to be working on going into this next year.
It's all zone commercial, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I think one of the things I know that there has been questions asked about the general plan.
That's the next agenda item, actually, number 15.
Yeah, I know. But just to make people understand how, truly expensive that is, and, that's going to be a challenge to work through that. Also, with respect to roads, streets in the city, I don't think it'd be too premature to inform the public about our costs that we have estimates on from the project or the engineering reports for Fruitland, full length to Orchard Park to Winton Way, and also Winton Way to Schaefer, if you wanted to expound on that.
Yes, with your council support, we were allowed to go out and secure the services of two different engineering companies. And so they're doing the preliminary engineering design for basically the reconstruction, or if possible, salvaging as much of the base and what's there for two different areas. One's Winton Way, basically from around Olive Avenue to Bellevue, and as the mayor stated, basically all of Fruitland, from Orchard Park all the way to Schaefer, two different sections. Just for Winton Way, right now the preliminary estimates are for $3.5 million. And for Fruitland, we're looking at just a little bit over 4.5 million, let's say, for Fruitland work. So that's where we are right now. The plans are still being prepared. In the end, the engineer will basically have specs and plans that we could use to bid. The obvious issue we have is that there's not enough funds on hand to do all the projects. And so we're going to be looking at how to break them into sizable pieces that make sense for implementation that we can also afford, and that's going to be the challenge going forward.
Right. Yeah, that was really what I wanted to get to the public, is because, man, I've been nailed with a lot of calls and emails and what have you, and there's been letters to the editor about Fruitland, the place to go and have your tires and suspension go to die, because it's just so bad. It only takes money, and this is a very expensive project, and as you stated, $4.5 million for that project alone, and there are some drainage issues, curb and gutter, there's where it widens out, and it's a mess. That is really a mess. So $4.5 million, I think, is really being quite conservative when it comes to that particular stretch. So, yeah, it only takes money. So I just want to let the folks know that we are definitely examining that. It's just, it's a very, very expensive thing, and those are only two roads. So between the two of them, you're looking at around $8 million right now. So, between Juniper to Olive and full length of Fruitland, that's what $8 million gets you right now, and there's other projects also within the city. So, any other comments for Mr. McBride? Okay.
Verbal discussion and possible action regarding general plan update.
Mayor, you kind of led into this one already. We did just want to provide some general background on the current general plan and perhaps an update. These are the required elements of a general plan that we listed for you. There are optional elements. We currently already have an economic development element. These are just some examples. There's a very long list of other optional elements. The key thing is that as broad as you make it, however many you add, they all have equal standing in terms of legal requirements. Some items for consideration with regard to the general plan. Essentially, this document has to be vetted and be done kind of concurrently with the EIR, because EIR has to be tied into all the impacts from all the changes and all the projects associated with the general plan. In addition to local action, that would be basically consideration by the city council, the sphere of influence, which basically is the bigger boundary of where the city can grow, that's outside the city limits we can grow into during the planning period. It also has to go to LAFCO for their consideration, for their approval. Just to kind of give you an example, during the last general plan update, it was about a 2-year window from when it was adopted internally until it finally got LAFCO approval and their certification. So there is a process for that, and that's likely to happen in the future as well. We did some research for you. First general plan was done in 1958. Listed some dates there for revisions. There were also some specific plans or area plans that were added throughout the years. The current plan, adopted in 2000, expires in 2020. We couldn't find an exact specific expiration date, but we know it was adopted in July of 2000, so we're assuming it's July of 2020. Prepared by Pacific Municipal Consultants, PMC, and the cost was about $200,000 for both the general plan and the IR. And again, as I stated before, it took until 2002 for the SOI, but it also included the need for a tax sharing agreement, which we currently already have with the county, and we're looking to update before we even get too far along with this process. And then recently you took action on the housing element, which is on a different cycle. It's till 2023, but it's one of the 7 required elements of the general plan. We did start an update in 2009, but basically it was stopped due to financial issues facing the city. It got to the point of an existing conditions report that was done with a lot of valuable background. The cost at that time looked to be $900,000 for the work, and obviously we didn't spend $900,000 or we'd have the project completed. We got to about $200,000 worth of expenses when we stopped. One good thing that did happen through the process, at least, was the utility master plans were updated. So most of those are in good shape, and as I stated earlier, we're working with Public Works going forward to do the update on those starting now again. I have talked to 2 different planning firms. They feel it's in the $900,000 range still. I'd like to say it's going to be less. Could potentially, you really don't know until you have a quote or bid, but I think that's probably a fairly decent number to plan on. Obviously, you don't have to have all the funds at one time. It's going to need to be done over a period of a couple of years. That $900,000 does not include the utility master plan updates. Funds for those are already contained in the appropriate budgets for this year. That's my understanding. AECOM is the firm that has maintained our master plans for many years, and that's the area that Public Works is working on that will be coming to your consideration to allow us to move forward at least on those. And as I stated earlier, we are starting to work on the MSR already, which will be a part of the program when this does go forward. The general plan, it's a very open public process. It's going to involve a lot of public meetings. It's going to involve a lot of technical staff level meetings. If the public's not involved, you're going to have a plan that really doesn't reflect the desire of the community. There's going to be some cooperation and coordination with other local agencies. This is just all to be expected. And essentially the general plan is kind of the start of a little bit bigger process, which is when you do your general plan, you kind of realize where you want to grow and you realize what you need to get there. And then it's an excellent time to reevaluate the city fees and make sure that your programs were set up to cover the cost for new development to get you to where you want to go. And so that's kind of why I say it's kind of the start of the process. Very often, once you do a general plan update, you're also going back and amending your zoning code. So it's a very fluid process. Once you start, you've got many steps to keep going to get it taken care of. Theoretically, who you're going to bring on board are going to be facilitators. They're going to have a lot of experience in other communities. They're going to have knowledge about the intricacies with state planning law, especially the areas of air quality, GHG. Those are the new, very high-profile issues we've got to address. The other one, obviously, is water, water supply. And again, working concurrently on the IR so that everything ties back together. Just from our conversations, 24 to 36 months is about the period to do this work. And it could very well be that when you're working on it or getting close to being finished, you could have potential legal challenges. That's also to be expected when you take on a project of this magnitude. I wanted to kind of outline what the role would probably be of the commission and the council on this. Obviously, several independent or perhaps joint meetings with the CDRC and the council. One of the key things the council can allow us to do to get started is to go ahead and work on that RFP or RFQ document. We're going to have to talk about how to allocate some of the funding, at least to get started on this project. You know, the commission and council are going to play a very large role on land use patterns. You know, land use patterns kind of are the beginning to dictate where everything goes and what's needed to make this work. And that's kind of the area where you're going to play a huge role in crafting where we go in the future. Mayor, that's all I had for tonight. I think that you're probably going to have some questions, and hopefully that's at least an introduction to kind of some of the things we're going to be looking forward on this project if we take some action to go forward.
Very good. It's a very good report. Any council members have any questions for Mr. McBride? Pro Tem Bergman.
I just wanted to confirm, you did say that some of the elements you're currently working on and
Well, we worked on the housing element, so that's done. We're going to be working on utility master plans. Those are being done. We're not doing any other work on any of the other 6 required elements. If the council wants us to proceed, I'd love to have direction to draft an RFP or RFQ to bring back for your review to allow us to kind of shop this out into the community for the people that do this work. We're not doing any other work on any of the other elements. That's all we are doing so far.
I think, personally, I think that should be a step we get started on and get this process going, because as you said, it could take 3 years. Right. It's due by 2020. That's right around the corner when you start looking at the timeframes.
Right.
So if there's no other questions, I would like to make a motion that we give staff direction to get started on RFP, RFQ for the community development, or the general plan.
Second.
I think we all jumped on that one. Yeah, we all want that. So who we have for a second? Okay.
I don't have the second. Which one? Joe?
Joe is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I need clarification.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments for Mr. McBride, I'll call for the question.
Rivero?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Bergman?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. Verbal report regarding solar savings at designated locations.
Mayor, council members. Okay, so these solar panels were put online August of 2015. So what we did is we took an average from 2013 to 2015 prior to the panels being installed, and then compared that to the average PG&E cost since the panels were installed. So the PG&E costs for all the sites that have solar currently, but pre-solar, were $389,615 a year. Now, after solar, $181,351 for a savings of $152,494 a year. City Hall alone saved $64,171. The prison was $40,532. The community center, $17,024. Well 17, $19,670. And well 15, $11,095. City Hall, for the year, we only paid $1,745 in PG&E cost. So it was like a 97% savings. Any questions?
What was the numbers again of savings for the year?
$152,494.
152.
What was the pre-solar amounts?
$389,615.
Thank you.
And these are just for the sites that have the panels.
Okay, I'm looking at the staff report here, and one of the things I was hoping, well, it's my understanding that we have one particular water well, and I don't know which one it is, but it was my understanding the solar energy that was being provided for it was not ample for that, and that there was a overcharge from PG&E that was supplementing that. Do you have those?
No, I don't have that. It more than likely be 15 or 17, because well 21 is the whole prism.
Okay. Yeah, I would have liked to seen a.
But both of those had savings, 17 and 15.
Right. I would have liked to seen some PG&E numbers side by side with, but that's okay. You're giving us a total overall savings here, and that's, I think, was the thrust of what we wanted. Okay. Mr. Rivera.
Yes, and that's just the wells in the city hall, and that's not including the wastewater treatment plant
No.
and all of that,
No.
which is an additional several $100,000. And not counting the rebates that we got back are over $200,000. I don't know exactly what the rebate was. $252,000 that we got pumped back in the city, went into the general fund. So I appreciate this, because I know there was naysayers out there saying, oh, you're going to lose money. No, this is what's kept the city going, this type of stuff. So I appreciate your report. Thank you very much.
Mr. Beecher.
LaQuinder, do you remember what our lease payment is for Con Energy?
I was looking into my emails, the one I sent. So it averaged about 25,000 a month.
That's for Con Energy, correct?
Correct. So for December, our payment was 42,000. For February, it was 16,000. For March, 20,000. For April, 25, May, 28, June, 27. So I'm assuming it's about 25,000 on average.
Thanks. Justin, do these numbers include the payment for, the lease payment for Con Energy?
No.
Thanks.
Well, that's kind of the thrust of where I wanted to go with this, was I wanted to see, all the costs, and I think that needs to be factored in here as well.
Yeah, this was strictly PG&E costs.
Right. Yeah. And I appreciate what Mr. Rivero is telling us about the rebate program. I don't think it's really germane to what we're talking about or what I had asked about here, although it is important, and I'm glad that we did, bring in that money. I'm talking about a specific time frame when all the Con Energy solar got put online here, because that was basically what I was asked from the public. So I think that covers it right there. I think that we should probably, make this an annual type of a thing, because we do have cost escalators that go through the year, and I would like to go through another year and see this reported again, and continue to do some side-by-side cost comparisons so that we see the full benefit of what we're getting.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. And next time we do that also, if we could also include a little more detail as to, what our payments are through LaQuinder, if she can, provide that, so we can have all those numbers provided. Thanks. Mr. Rivero.
Yeah, one other question. Did you use the numbers of the actual costs for the 2013 to 2015, what it actually cost the city, or did you plug in the current cost for PG&E that would cost us today?
No, the cost from 2013, 2014, and 2015. So that current year of 2013.
So that was plugged in with the old cost of what it was costing us at that time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
City Council matters. Verbal discussion and possible action regarding dissolving the Audit and Finance Committee.
Basically, I'm the one that brought this forth. First, I want to thank all the people, or the few people who have attended the Audit and Finance Committee meetings that I've been involved with for the last year and a half. It seems that while it may appear on the outside to be very important to have those meetings, staff is basically doing a duplicate service. They're preparing for that meeting and then turning right around and bringing that same exact information to the full council. So to me, it seems like it's wasting a whole lot of staff time
as well as a couple of council members' times. Not that our time is not valuable or invaluable, but it just seems like the staff is so overloaded now that they don't need to have that extra time to come to that meeting, where that could be used elsewhere, in my opinion. And so since they bring both the treasury report and the rest of the financial report to the full council for review, and we review it anyway, to me, it's just seems like it shouldn't be there anymore.
Comments from the council? Mr. Bergman.
Well, I've been on this committee for, since I was elected, and there have been times in the past where we have dealt with issues that weren't something that was normally taken forward, and I think it would be prudent to keep it. I don't see that it's a exorbitant amount of time for staff, and I think especially with these fiscal situations we're having now, I think it would be prudent just to keep it there just as somewhat of a safeguard should we have issues pop up.
Mr. Rivera.
I've seen this council eliminate committees in the past, and I served on that committee, and when I served on it, it wasn't just report to us committee, and then we'll take it back to the council. The committee itself was looking for ways and presented them there and came up with ideas with the other staff to try to find ways to save money. And I recall one of the ways is we went out to new bids for the general items from pencils to all the little things that you use every day. We saved over $10,000 just in that. So there's a lot of things you can do in that committee rather than just have it passed on to the council, to actually go there and look for new ideas to bring back, discuss with the other experts, and then try to bring it back to the council and see if we wanted to place it in motion. So, no, I don't think that we should eliminate any more committees.
Anyone else? I too, want to echo the sentiments that Pro Tem Bergman had stated about our financial condition as at this point right now, even though we are able to balance and we've been able to keep ourselves going, I think it's imperative that we do an oversight within ourselves and keep on top of that sort of thing. And I think also that this is a very cheap investment, and that I believe too that it's one of those committees that it may seem mundane at this point, but I think it can serve a valuable function, especially given our financial condition. So while I understand what Councilmember Vineyard is putting forward here, I think that it's something that we need to continue, and so that's my position on that. So unless somebody has some other comments. Mr. Vineyard?
I'm just looking at being basically that I was gone for 2.5 months or so. There wasn't a meeting. The city didn't fall down. Finances didn't fall down. In the time I've been there, which I know is not as long as Councilman Bergman, we've asked for suggestions, or we've talked about different things, and nothing has ever come up. We've tried to get people there for public input. It doesn't happen. There's no reason to me that public input and that discussion that we're just talking about right now can't occur here, since it's being projected to us anyway. It comes to us, and nobody up here has a question. Nobody asks anything, not even a report from the Finance Committee. So if you think you're going to have a question or an idea, it could be produced here versus there, and it's out into the public. We've already been told we do too many things behind closed doors, and the public aren't coming. Why? Probably because it's about 3:30 in the afternoon and most people are working. But they do come here, and people can voice their opinion here. So that's, again, why I brought it forth. But
Okay, so what's the council's pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we dissolve
the Audit and Finance Committee.
Is there a second? Hearing none, motion dies for lack of a second. No action. Next item.
Verbal discussion and possible action regarding establishing a policy prohibiting cell phones and other texting devices during city council meetings.
Again, this is mine. And the reason being is, I don't know how many times I hear from the public about cell phones that go off during meetings here, or people at home watching and seeing cell phones and text messages being read while someone's doing a presentation or while there's a discussion going on. And to me, it's unprofessional if that's occurring, for one thing. To me, it shows a lack of transparency, because I don't know what somebody else in this council is receiving and who they're receiving it from. I don't know if they're being told how to vote, what questions to ask. We're supposed to come here prepared every time we come here. So we shouldn't need our phones on to do that. If there's a family emergency, we have the city manager, we have the police chief here. Dispatch can get it. They can notify us if we have that. It just seems that, you know, there's a lot of information that could be going on that I have no privy to, the public has no privy to. So it gives us an air that there isn't transparency up here. And I don't care how many times I've got emails, I've got conversations from here that talk about how transparent we are, but that leaves a huge gap right there when people see people aren't paying attention. And it's led to duplicate questions, sometimes triplicate questions of the speaker, of information that's been passed on because we're not paying attention. And I think we're doing a disservice to the public, to those who do a presentation, and to each other when we're not listening to the full conversation and we're distracted.
Okay. Any comments from the council? Any comments from the public?
Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard. Mayor, council. City's council's use of electronic communication devices, such as cell phones, during a council meeting may lead to the public's perception that a council member is not paying attention to the subject matter at hand, or that a council member is receiving information relative to the subject matter at hand that other council members and members of the public are not receiving, either one of which is inimical to good government and transparency. And I can remember back in 2014, there were 3 members elected to the council. 2 of those ran on transparency of government in the city of Atwater. They said we weren't transparent enough, or the city wasn't transparent enough. Things were being hidden behind doors. People weren't being told what was going on, nor could they find information about what was going on. Cell phone use by council members during council meetings leads right into this. The information that's going on between council members and members of the public, either at home or in these chambers, that's not recoverable because they're not using a city-provided device. That means we don't know what they're talking about. I don't know if 2 council members are talking to a 3rd council member, which is a violation of the Brown Act. We don't know that. I don't think that's going on, but the suspicion is still there. Resolutions regarding cell phone use are starting to show up all over California now because cities, municipalities, and the public in general are getting tired of their elected officials using these devices to communicate without letting us know what's going on or giving us the opportunity to find out. We do know that certain things have happened with councils regarding cell phone use and voting. Possibly, maybe some votes were changed because they received a message from someone. We also know there have been threats, various forms. Yet, we can't recover this information to tell for sure that this has been going on. We just hear this. So I think it's time that this council pass a resolution regarding cell phone usage, put them away. They don't need to be used during council meetings. You have a city manager who has a phone sitting in front of him. He's more than capable of taking a phone call if there is an emergency. We also have our interim chief in the council chambers, or Officer Novitsky or one other officer that can handle emergencies as well. I think it's time that we do this. I think the public deserves this. It's just one more way to make yourselves more transparent to the public. Thank you.
If I might ask Mr. Terpstra, do you have any inputs legal-wise towards use or non-use?
Not a lot. I know that I believe in the early part of my tenure here with the city, I think we looked at this once before. It rang a bell when I looked at it on the agenda earlier. And I think that the council at that time was trying to balance, the need to be accessible, the need to be able to check on things at home, whatever it is, with the transparency issue. Generally speaking, in a city like Atwater, which is a general law city, the council has the freedom to enact rules of conduct for its own meetings. And the issue is, would a ban on cell phone uses be consistent with that? And I think it would, if that's the policy, the direction the council wants to go. But you're not compelled to do it. It's probably within the purview of the council to decide on reasonable rules for their own meetings. So I don't think the law compels us to go one way or the other.
Are there any other members of the audience that wish to speak to this particular item? Comments from the council? Mr. Raymond.
Yeah, just for clarity, says for all texting devices?
Yes.
Okay. What did we spend on the iPads? Because that's a texting device. So I don't want to get into semantics, but I mean, we kind of have to. As far as for clarity.
We have no, as far as I'm aware, we have no ability right now to receive text messages. So to me, that would exclude these. So there would be an exception in that realm.
Yeah, you can receive emails on this.
Emails, you can.
And text.
But most of the problem has been texting.
Okay, you can do both.
Then,
I don't know how to do it either.
and that's an easy solution, remove that ability. All computers have that ability to be removed. So these can have that done, and that excludes them. That's the iPads.
It converts it to an email. That's what it does. The different carriers.
Main consideration is phones. I see it out in the audience all the time, people holding up phones trying to get attention. If people want to get up and talk, they need to come to the meetings. If they want to voice their opinion, all we always say is we want people to come voice their opinion. Come do it here. Don't do it through a second intermediary. Don't do it through a text message. Come here, stand up in front of the mic, and voice your opinion. That's what we're all about, is have an open forum for people to come talk, not to pass it on to somebody else or ask a question through us. That could be done ahead of time in your preparation. People come to me all the time, what about this item, what about this item? And I talk to them about it. If they're that concerned about an item on the agenda, the person that's that concerned or persons should come here and talk so everyone can hear them. So everybody knows exactly what the conversation is. And that's the issue I have, is I don't know what's going on. But as Mr. Lee has said, I'm aware of past practices where there's been threats, but they haven't been proven. And it has affected how this city is governed. So to remove, the exception would be to remove the iPads from being able to text and email, or at least during, you could do that during the meeting. We could stipulate that. That's going to be all on us, whether we actually use that or not.
Yeah.
That still falls on us. But the phones and personal computers are the main concern of mine. We bought these for a reason. We should have them here, absolutely. So, hopefully maybe that helps.
Yeah, and I don't know the first thing about how to do that on this particular iPad. If I have my 12-year-old granddaughter here, I'm sure she'd whip it right out for me. So
I can get the emails. I just never done it.
Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think it's good to have people talking on their phones, texting on their phones. But you know what? This is a free country, and if people don't like what they're doing, I would vote them out. Okay, and that's my point. I don't think we should put any more restrictions on freedom of whatever people are doing. If they're doing it, then vote them out. And I've seen members throughout my years constantly on it, and I didn't like it either. I just have my paper copy because I kind of like that. But I will bring mine. I didn't cost the city thousands of dollars. I have my own when I want to use it. But the thing is that people have been in trouble. They've been caught texting other council members, and if they feel like going down that path, then let them. If they feel like that, oh, I'm gonna be on a cell phone and I'm gonna be texting her a message, then that's what they feel that they're gonna do. And if people put them in and they want to keep them in, then that's their right. But to start putting limits, once again, this isn't communist, or you can't do this, you can't do that. No, let them. And if they do, then the people decide what they want. So, you know, and right now, if these can be texting back and forth so you don't stop, I don't know, if maybe you're texting or maybe you're researching something. What's Raymond doing over there? Or what, you know, what's anybody doing? We don't know. I mean, we could have the cameras on them. We could have them back here, but, you know, it starts to become a little bit where it's redundant, it's ridiculous. So, you know, I agree, things shouldn't happen. And council members that have been texting back and forth, they've been caught and just desserts. You shouldn't do it. But I don't think we should start putting more laws, more restrictions, and start doing all this. I mean, if people are doing something, note it. Come up to the podium and say, hey, why are you continuing to text? Why are you on your cell phone? Maybe Raymond, I'm not going to pick on anybody, but maybe one of the council members right now is looking at their computer, reading something else that they're getting from someone else. You don't know. So even with these, there's no assurance, except that everything I understand is goes through the, if you go through the web here, it's located on our hard drive, so if people are using that, I guess you can do a Freedom of Information Act. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that area, but anyway, that's just my view, is that there comes a time with all this red tape constantly. If you don't like something, let them know it, tell them goodbye. We don't need more laws. Anyway, thank you.
Don Heiler, 3349 Nautical Court. It is my understanding that you can receive text messages on iPads if you have a personal account attached to it. And it's my understanding you're not supposed to have a personal account attached to these iPads. So that's a point of reference on that. Second of all, we are a place of business. I have served on corporate boards. And I think all of us understand the emergency situation. I think probably what I see, and I don't attend all the meetings, but I do attend many, and I don't know that there's anybody in the house today that is on their phone more than I am. I have two phones. One's a work phone, and the other's a personal phone, and I'm going nuts on both of them. Tonight, I've been texting quite a bit. Probably some of you have seen that. My point is, I think the point of this is, if you were doing it just as an emergency measure, the public has no problem with that. But when it is a constant every meeting, I think that's where it imposes questions. And I think you sit up there as a respectable body, just like a jury. And if you were sitting in a courtroom in a court case, and there was a jury member that was sitting there texting, is that jury member texting wrong? Probably not. But it's the fact that it poses a question. And I think even if you don't pass this piece tonight, I think it would just be good if you would make a commitment that we're not going to be on our cell phones. This is about city business. And Mr. Rivero, I agree. You may not have to put an ordinance in action. You might have to. But I do think it's important that everyone on the dais makes the commitment that, I'm just not going to be on my cell phone at this point. This is about business. And that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Don. Are there any other comments?
Just like to make one more comment. You need to understand something. This isn't about you. It's about us. It's not about you, it's about us. We're the ones that want the respect, and we're the ones that want to feel that what we're saying is being heard and being taken seriously. And we want to be able to get the information that we are legally liable to get, or legally can get from this council when decisions are made and things are being talked about, other than being talked about verbally. So that's the whole idea of this measure that Jim brought up tonight. So really, it's about the people in this audience and the people in this city. So remember that, please.
Thank you. Mr. Raymond.
I agree with Mr. Lee. It is about the residents, and that's why we should be focusing on the $3 million deficit. We should be focusing on getting our police force back to where it needs to be, focusing on getting fire what they need, focusing on opening up City Hall 5 days a week, because it's about the residents. So that's my piece, is we need to focus on the things that are really important, and that's serving the public.
Well, like everybody here, here's mine, but, you know, like Don, this is personal and it's also business, and I keep it in front of me here because sometimes I do get some business stuff. However, let me assure you, I've never gotten something on a business level, or on a personal level for that matter, and let it interrupt anything that is informational or something that I have to make a decision on. That's just, I want to assure the public that's never been an issue with me. If there's somebody else on the council who is doing that, and I'm focusing my attention to a speaker, to something, I'm not aware of it. I'm not, you know, eyeballing the members here to see what they are or what they are not doing with a cell phone. So this, you know, I think there's good arguments on both ends of this. And I don't know what would we do if we did pass an ordinance? You know, what is, you know, if somebody is caught, you know, utilizing a cell phone, okay, then what? What is our, you know, how do we police it? What is the punitive issue to it if they are caught? I don't know that there's anything to gain by making some sort of regulatory something to it. But again, I agree with both sides of the argument. I couldn't agree more that I think every one of us that is sitting here and making decisions for the city has an absolute duty and obligation to the possible 30,000 people within this city, that we devote all of our attention to every single matter that is on the agenda, no matter how important or how trivial it may be. So I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Vineyard.
I'd like to say one more thing, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
To me, it doesn't seem like it's too much to ask for the city council members. And if we don't pass an ordinance, that's fine. But it's something we should do, and we can police ourselves. We can remove, I believe, a council member due to a violation. Maybe not. Maybe I'll have to get that clarified by Mr. Terpstra. However, for 1 to 3 hours at a council meeting, if we cannot do without cell phones, text messages, etc., from outside this room and deal with here, then that's really bad. That's terrible. And as far as all the other things that Councilman Raymond brought up, that is true. We need to be working on these things, and they all come with plans and ideas, which we haven't had. So I'm not going to make a motion because I can already tell you how it's going to go. But this is something for food for thought for this council, is you need to police yourself. And that's the whole point of bringing this discussion up. It's because it's really getting out of hand. When I get so many calls about people at home or from the audience afterwards about the disrespect we give to the citizens in that room, so.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I will tell everyone here today and for the record that I make a personal commitment to the city here that I will not allow any electronic device get in the discussion that we may have on any particular item at any time. And I make that commitment freely and on the record. And I should hope that all the other council members, not necessarily verbally or on the record, but make that same commitment. If there's no further discussion, next agenda item.
Just, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
She's gonna, no, that's it, go ahead.
Okay.
Verbal discussion and possible action regarding submitting by-district election method to the voters at an election prior to the November 2018 elections.
Yeah, this is my forethought, thinking ahead of the game. We've already had 2 cities in this county, Merced and Los Banos, sued because of underrepresentation on the city council. Merced City had to pay $43,000 to resolve that lawsuit and draw the lines and do their districting. I don't think it's too much to ask that we follow along the similar path and prevent ourselves from being sued and thus saving $43,000 or their portion of. Now, I understand there's people that say, oh, you're taking away people's rights to vote for everybody. I understand that. But we're also making each council member responsible for a particular area to a particular group of people who don't have a voice necessarily right now, because all of us live in one general area, or approximately in one general area. To me, it doesn't seem hard to do. We could draw it up, or it could be drawn up along the school district lines with some tweaking. They have 5 members already on their board. So the balance of that, to me, doesn't seem like it'd be difficult to do. Still leave the mayor at large. But we need to start something, even if it's only conversation, even if it's only a committee to look into it. Doesn't mean we have to go forth with it, but we need to look into it so we get prevented from getting sued. Sure, everybody can sue anybody anytime, but this will prevent them from actually filing a lawsuit because we are taking the proactive approach to looking into this, and that's what it is looking into this. And if it's feasible and it works to give the whole city a committed person to them, I don't know how many calls I've received. Are you the councilman responsible for my area? Well, we're all responsible for the whole city right now. Where do you live? Because they can't get phones answered. They leave messages. They can't get calls back. I happen to be the one that pick up the phone. Maybe it's because everybody else is busy, and I understand that too. But people, they'll know if they're voting for a particular person, that's the person they're going to go to first to bend the ear of. And if they don't get a response to that, then they can come to somebody else on the council. But I think it's imperative that everybody in this city has somebody directly responsible for them. Not just all of us, because we all are, but they need to have one contact to go directly to. And they know who that contact is, so they don't have to hunt and fish and make 12 phone calls to find somebody to get an answer. Again, it's just a start. It's start that conversation and to prevent the lawsuit. Thank you.
Mr. Petro.
Tom, you and I had a discussion about this topic about an hour ago. What's your opinion on this?
Well, the council member is correct that this is a movement that's in the valley, and it is something that we probably ought to look at the steps involved. These decisions are enormously complicated in terms of implementation, and so we would need to really take a careful look at, if the council wanted to go that direction, how we would do that. What are the parameters of that? What are the legal requirements? And we can learn from the litigation that's been filed against other cities on that. There are pros and cons of going with district election versus citywide elections. When I started as city attorney in Ripon in 1993, they had a ward system, which was the same, basically district elections. And 4 years later, they did away with it because the argument was you could have really qualified people in one ward, one district, who never get a chance to serve because there's a long-standing incumbent. Without term limits, it can be difficult for people to get a position on the city council. And it can act as an artificial barrier to getting the best people into office. But there's policy questions, there's legal questions, and constitutional questions that go along with it. And so if we're going to start going down that road, we need to make sure we've got a solid foundation for that. And that would be a process memorandum. How does this work, and what are the steps involved? And we can certainly assist with that. I've undone them so I can do them, if you know what I mean.
Councilmember Raymond.
As for Mr. Terpstra, it's my understanding that the state was working on legislation to make it mandatory for cities over 100,000 people to go to districting, and it was exempting under. Do you know where that's at? Or
I don't know this current status. I've heard about that, but I don't know what the current status is. We could probably fold that into our report.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that to my attention.
Okay.
I made myself a note on my phone, but I don't dare do that.
Here's the old-fashioned way.
This is how I make notes to myself.
Right there, here's the old-fashioned way.
All right, good job.
Just don't lose the paper.
Are there any members of the audience who would like to address this item? Pastor Barkman.
We talk about representative government. Right now, 50% of our county and probably our town are on Medi-Cal. How many of you are on Medi-Cal? 70% of our children are on Medi-Cal. How many of your children are on Medi-Cal? At least 55% of the community is Hispanic. How many of you are Hispanic? There is not one person on this city council that represents specific areas within the community. Realtors are a very small percentage. Teachers are bigger, but a very small percentage. Huge percentage are retired. A couple of you are retired. But when we look at the issues of community health, development, representative government, you have to look at the people you're serving and find a way to break it down to the smallest number. Now, if you are ill-advised enough to not look into this, you are going to face community reaction and activist groups that are going to come in and force the city to do what you will not do on your own accord. I highly recommend that the wise course would be to follow Mr. Vineyard's suggestion and begin a process of looking into this. It is not that hard, it is not that expensive, and you can certainly get it done and avoid some of the issues that are going to come our way. It doesn't matter whether we're 100,000 larger or smaller. We look at the groups within our community and serve them. And if we're not representing them, which is obvious, we need to make changes to represent the people within this community. So please consider what he's suggesting and start the process.
I just want to echo what Mr. Barkman said. I brought this up, I think, a little over a year ago or so when we discussed this. The time's coming rapidly for districting, not only in this city, but in a lot of cities in California. Some are taking the proactive approach, and they're making the changes they need to make. Obviously, there's an issue there. School districts have been doing it. Merced City's doing it. I believe Turlock has done it, and I believe Modesto has done it in the face of a lawsuit. It just makes sense to move in that direction. As far as population numbers, I wouldn't go with that. This is California. I can remember when the ADA didn't care if you were compliant, if you were a certain age of building, and that's no longer true at all, as we all know. Everybody comes under that umbrella today, regardless of the age of your building or whether or not it's a historical building, gives you some leeway, but still. The previous speaker was correct. We need to move forward on this. Otherwise, we are going to face some action from some attorney or some group that's going to force us to do it on their schedule. And it may not be something that we can afford. So I really believe this is another thing we have to do, just like the general plan, and I don't think this is going to cost us much money. Hopefully it doesn't. Thanks.
Anybody else that would like to speak to this issue? Council, what's your pleasure? Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor Price. No, there's a lot of good points here. It's been happening all over. In fact, City of Atwater, the school district was saying, well, we need to do this. We need to do this for equal representation. So they did it. They did districting, and it weakened the power of the voter. And that's the one thing I stand on. What they ended up doing, and not a single minority, Hispanic, or one of these others on any of these things won for our school district. And so this is the thing. I believe it happened in Plano too, where it was like, for minorities, we're like 90%, and they passed it. And at that time, I don't believe anybody but the same people made it on. So there's an attack here. But you take a look very carefully, everybody, because when you can no longer vote for everybody on this council, your vote is diminished. Instead of having 100% vote, you don't like what I do, vote me out. But hey, wait a minute, you're just in his precinct, and I vote your rates up. You can't touch me. How is that good for you? Right now, each and every one of you can vote for each one of us, and you can throw us out. Now, I see a lot of people wanting to run, or candidates liking that because it makes it easier for you. You know, instead of going through the whole city and talking and representing everybody, no, I'm just talking to a little group. So it makes it easier for a council member to go, hey, that's good. I don't have to do as much work to get back on. But it's stealing your vote. And I've had conversations with people from the county before when this was happening, and even the family members were agreeing that no, it's not good for your vote, because when you can only vote for one of four, because the mayor would still be, according to the proposal, he'll be at large. But that's 25%. Your vote has been, that's all you have. You've lost 75% of your power. So you can say, oh, the scare tactics that are going to come if this goes on. They're going to say, oh, the cost to the city. Well, how much is your vote worth? That's what you got to start looking at. Is your vote worth, oh, something might happen. Oh, they sued us. And then it's still up to the citizens to vote on this. And that's true. But this is one of the things, when you see your rights diminish constantly, if you stop and look at the federal level or even the state level, you need to really stop and look at what these things are doing. And maybe it's for a good reason, but overall, it's really harming your power as a citizen and as a voter. So, you want somebody to run, go out and support them. You want to get rid of somebody, you go out and do that. But once this takes place, you're not going to be able to get rid of anybody up here if they're not in your district. And they can pass, the council passes all these laws for, great big increases to your water, sewer, garbage, and great big cuts for developers' fees. And that's the types of stuff that happen. So I'm not for this at all. I don't see anything. I believe in the power of the voter, and this is going to only weaken it. I mean, if there's a group out there that wants it, I heard you, I guess you have to be a certain minority or certain something to represent somebody by some ways of thinking. I heard, well, if you're not on Medi-Cal, or you're not on this, or you're not on this, you can't represent them. I think people can represent everybody. And if they're not, vote them out. Right now, you have that ability. You can vote anybody out right now in this council. In the future, if you do this, you got one. And it may not be changing anything anyway, because it didn't change any people on the school district. It didn't change in other areas too. So to me, it's just another affront to your voting power. Thank you.
Mr. Vineyard.
Sure. To go by that an analogy, let's put it at the state level. How many districts do we have in the state? not taking my vote away because I only get to vote for one person in my district at the state level. Doesn't take away my vote to vote for one assemblyman or one senator. I still get to vote. I still have the right to choose. But I have one person that's responsible for my area at the state level. Same thing with the national level. All we're doing is making it the same here. We're still all responsible. We're all up here. Once you get up here, you're responsible to the whole city. Trust me, they all hold you responsible. And they'll tell you so. They're not stupid. They're not ignorant. The public is not. The public is very well educated, and they know what's going on. And the time's coming. I'm simply trying to save money where I can. It's going to cost us a little money to do this. It's going to save us money in the long run. So I'm just going to make a motion that we start the process of forming a committee. We could determine that number. I have here 6 to 10, along with Mr. Terpstra, to at least look into going towards districting. It doesn't stop us from doing what we're doing now, and it doesn't prevent us from not going any further, but we do need to look into it.
Mr. Rivero.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a question for Mr. Terpstra. It wouldn't be the council voting for this. It would still have to go to the public to vote on this. Is that not correct?
I believe that is the process, but we would have to bring that back to you completely fleshed out as to, in terms of when that happens. The council would have to direct it to go to the voters, and then in that format.
Okay, thank you. And then there's just one more thing too, and I agree with you. We can only vote. We're voting for one president. We're only voting for a senator, and they're one out of very many. But right now, we're very small. We're not talking about millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people. And as Mr. Raymond brought up, the state's looking at that. So for cities that are over 100,000, 150,000, yes, where there's no way you could get out. But we're a small city like this where we have to say that, oh, we can't get out and talk to everybody. Let's just keep my little area. I think that's still the point, is that we can. And you have more power here. Everybody does, because you guys don't like the way things are going. You can't vote for every senator.
Mayor, we have a point of order. We have a motion on the floor. We haven't had a second, but we're having some discussion.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Is there an ample second? Mr. Raymond.
Just for clarification, for your 6 to 10 person committee that you were talking about, are you talking about to approve lines that would be drawn from an independent third party? Because at this point, you'd have to worry about gerrymandering from, people with special interest getting on this committee to steer. So there's a whole lot more that goes into this.
Talking about starting to look into the process, which means look at how Merced did it, look how other cities do it, bring it back to us to let us discuss it further. Starting the process, we have to start the process. And if it goes further than that, we have to look at that, obviously. However, I would suggest that the city manager appoints the committee, and there shouldn't be anybody from the council, so there's no influence from the council.
Mr. Rivera.
And I agree, if there's going to be a committee looking at this, let's make sure if we're concerned with all of these groups, because I look at our own, what they call super committee on here, and I don't see any of these minorities. I don't think we have anybody on they're receiving free and reduced lunch and all these others. So if we're going to really have a committee that's representing the city, and that was by appointment, that wasn't by election. So it needs to make sure that we're covering all the areas that were brought up tonight.
Mr. Mayor, if you could
Yes.
call the point of order and ask for a second.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to say, can we, Mr. Vineyard has a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Okay, so it dies for lack of a second. I would like to make the motion that rather than have a committee, that perhaps Mr. Terpstra, you can bring back information as to the standing right now, if there is any with the state or federal government pertaining to this matter, bring it back and have open discussion once again to see where we're at.
That's fine. We'll bring that information back as well as a rough overview of the process that would need to be followed in order to move forward on something like this.
Okay, so that'd be my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Mr. Raymond, did you have a comment or a question? Your light was on. Okay. Let me just say before call for the question that in seeing this on the agenda, I did look into Merced, and it is not just a simple process, I can assure you. One of the things that they had to do was go through a consultant, and the consultant, the city would not draw the lines. Those are done by an independent. Also, people that were placed on a committee to discuss this were chosen by the League of Women Voters. They were not chosen by anybody within the city. The consultant and the fees and things like that that are attached to this are fairly exorbitant. So, I would also make the comment, I don't know of anyone that has ever, we talk about representation and running for the seats and that type of thing. I don't know of anybody that has ever been denied or unduly denied, a position here on the council, or any other position for that matter, whether it be a committee, being an oversight committee or whatever, that they've been denied, that something like this would be the solution to a problem. So I'm not aware of that. I'm sympathetic to all the things that are being discussed here. But in any case, if we can come back with additional information so that we can absorb this and look at it, rationally and move forward on it, I think that'd be the thing to do at this point. Okay, so I'll call for the question.
Bergman?
Yes.
Vineyard?
No.
Raymond?
Yes.
Rivero?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. City council comments.
Mr. Raymond.
I just want to thank everyone on the 9/11 committee that worked to put together the event yesterday. It was a fitting tribute. I know a lot of people appreciate it. A lot of people enjoyed it. So thank you all. And also, yesterday was my grandma's birthday, so I want to tell her happy birthday.
Mr. Bergman.
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Mr. Vineyard.
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Rivero.
I'd just like to offer my condolences to the Souza family for the loss of Mrs. Souza and AJ. He was a student at Peggy Heller in the past. He had touched the lives of many other students. They were very upset because he was a very, very nice boy. He was always there with a smile on his face, helping other students, and he will be missed by all his friends and loved ones and myself. So with that, I think that's all I have.
I too want to thank Marguerite and all of the folks within the city here who put together the 9/11 memorial that we had yesterday. It was a fitting memorial, and I thank Gary Bryce, who was speaker, and all of the law enforcement folks that were there. It was a fitting tribute, and I thank you for it. Along those lines, I want to also, I want us all not to forget that this past week, we had a horrific incident happen with one of our Merced County deputy sheriffs, and was shot in the line of duty. And thank God he is looking to make a recovery from this, and hopefully will be home and recuperating and with his family and back on the job as soon as he can, if he can. But I think it underscores exactly what we all know, and we just don't want to think about it, but these are the realities of what happens when you put on that uniform and strap on the gun and go out on patrol. These are the things that happen. And God Almighty, I just hope that none of that happens anymore around here, but it's a reality of the job, and you know, I thank God every day that I don't see an email from Chief Joseph that tells us, or get a phone call in the middle of the night that tells me that we've had an officer injured or shot in the line of duty. So keep your prayers for the law enforcement and our fire guys. They all are out there doing what we aren't, protecting us around the clock every day. And so I really appreciate all that. I hadn't heard back from anybody. I was thinking about the possibility of a town hall that would be in conjunction with the CDRC and Measure H committees. So I'm looking into, I had thought about somewhere around the 29th of this month, but there's been some issue with that. So I am thinking more along the lines of possibly October 6th. Does anybody have any problems with October 6th?
I won't be. I'll be out of town, Mayor.
You'll be out of town. Okay. Do you have an
I don't
alternate?
have a problem with it, though.
What's that?
I don't have a problem
Okay.
with going ahead and doing it.
Okay. Don?
As a member of the CDRC, I think this is a positive step forward in one sense. I do think we all need to get together and talk. And as much as I am for having a town hall, I myself would prefer for us to get together in a closed session first. Not to not be transparent, but I think we all need to get on the same page in processes and procedures, etc. And this may not be able to be done because of the Brown Act, I'm not sure, but I do think that having a town hall I think that kind of defeats the purpose of what Eric was trying, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but what you were trying to accomplish.
Well,
I recognize the Brown Act, so I'm just saying, but I think part of the issue is none of us are on the same page. And I think that's part of what we're trying to accomplish here, is we'd like to all get on the same page, however that process needs to happen. Mm-hmm. And if that needs to be, the word's slipping my mind, if it needs to be advertised, but not advertised as a town hall. I think when you have a town hall, people are coming to ask questions. If you'd like to just place, post it, and then us have a meeting, I think that would be more apropos. That's my thoughts.
Well, and I appreciate that. My point in doing this would be to have, for example, Eric is chair of the Measure H committee, for him to be able to introduce himself and any of the other committee members, as well as CDRC, Gary, you, the other members of the CDRC, and just have you there for public exposure. Not so much not to conduct business and that type of thing. I agree with you insofar as if you want to, do something as you spoke to, gathering and that, I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. But this was strictly just a transparency thing, and to let people know who you are, what you do, and that type of thing. Insofar as the legalities of it, and Mr. Terpstra, you can interrupt me if you so choose. It would be a matter of, for example, in the CDRC, at the end of your meeting, to adjourn it to the 6th. You would cover your legal, tails on that sort of thing. For the Measure H committee, it would be the same process. However, you would probably, being as though your meetings are not on a monthly basis, you just maybe have a special meeting, come in, call it to order, adjourn to the 6th. And that would cover that, would it not?
Yeah, we can certainly figure that out. I think you could just agendize a town hall to consist of the various bodies and then a joint meeting essentially, yeah.
Okay.
And so, the noticing shouldn't be too tough. I mean, I do have an issue with a closed session because there's no real Brown Act safe harbor for that between the two commissions, so. But I think a workshop might be in order, or maybe prior to a council
Okay.
meeting one afternoon or something.
Yeah.
And then the public that does choose to attend that for whatever reason they'd want to do that. But
Right.
anyway, that would be an opportunity. to
Okay,
do that.
well, we can work through the legal verbiage on, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
whatever it
we're
is.
only in a
but-
council report, so I mean, it's.
Right.
I think that wording is really more what I was thinking as
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
I
yeah,
figured
we'll work through all of the technicalities of all that, but for the moment, in any case, we have not had a town hall in some time, and I want to try to incorporate all of us together that are out serving the public in whatever fashion we are. And so, in the spirit of openness and transparency, that's what I would like to do. So tentatively, can we look at the 6th of October, October, and we'll go from there, okay? Are there any other comments or questions or anything from the council? Anything from any of the members of the audience that they would like to bring forward as an afterthought? Hearing none? Thank you all for attending tonight. Thank you at home for watching. This meeting is adjourned.